eating dog food. And you might be able to guess which one I'm doing tonight. I'm going live. I'm not eating the dog food. Definitely not tonight. And only 3 more days after this, and then I will hopefully never have to say that I've had to or chose to eat dog food, if all goes well. So, as is my ritual, put the sticky up on the board, and now color in the day. Oh yes. Smells like middle school. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 more days, and I'm done live streaming. Although I'll probably actually do it more often. But I got to get my wife on board, and my wife has to say yes. You can go do live streams, and I will watch the baby. So yeah, tonight I wanted to share some of the books that I've been reading lately and how it relates to ADHD, and why I think if you have ADHD or if you struggle with your focus and flow, these books or just these ideas might be helpful to you. So the first one, I am on a Cal Newport kick. I've been going through all of his stuff. I check these books out from the library using Libby, I think is the app. And so yeah, it's free. And then if a book's really good where I'm like, okay, I've gone through it once or twice, then I just go buy it. But Cal Newport's Slow Productivity just came out recently. And I'm definitely a fan of him and of his work and just how thorough he is. And Slow Productivity did not let me down. It's a little bit shorter, but I have really been embracing this idea of going deep into a skill set or an area of your life and just diving into that and really becoming a craftsman. So he calls, in another book, he calls it this craftsman mindset, right? Which is to really get good at something. And as you get better at that thing, you enjoy it more because you enjoy being good at something. And like, there's just this skill of doing it. So I'll talk about origami. I used to make these origami flowers for different people, and then even for like a past girlfriend. And I would like make them, and I got good where I made like over 1,000, and I just got to the point where it's almost this meditative process of folding the paper where I'm really not thinking about it, but my brain is still busy doing this thing. And I don't know, it feels like being in the flow, or like, it's very meditative for me to do these origami paper flowers. And so this idea that Cal Newport's talking about in Slow Productivity is that we don't have to always go at this breakneck pace. That there's almost been this lie that's been told about modern work, and that we have to be busy, and busy is an approximation of how good you're doing or how effortful you are at something. And so what happens is we just get more and more busy, and if we have time on our plate, instead of doing something really well, we'll say yes when our boss hands us more work. It's like, well, I don't feel stressed enough to say no, until we reach this point where we're just so stressed that we're like, yeah, no, I have got to say no. I can't handle this. I need to stop. But yet we're riding this line of constantly being at this like really stressed out point and not having margin in our lives to like dive into something and really like learn it and understand it, and to like wrestle with something. Or if a title for a paper you're writing isn't coming to you, what if you gave it 4 hours or 6 hours in a day to like work through good titles? And he also talks about procrastination, like that slow productivity isn't about like being so detail oriented that you never publish, that you never share what you're doing. So I've really liked this book, and I think it relates to ADHD. I think that I have very often approximated my productivity for how just active, and how much stuff am I doing, and just moving and going, instead of like, am I embracing the depth and creativity of this thing that I'm doing? Am I okay with taking a little bit longer and just sitting here? I was working on writing a book back in 2018, and some of my most productive days came from just sitting there looking at the screen and not writing. And then I would take a break, and then when I would come back, then the ideas would flow. And it was like, oh, my brain just needed that space to just think and process and to like make the dots. But like, there's something inside me in my gut that was saying like, oh, like shaming me, like, oh, you're not working hard because you're not typing, you need to be going more. And so I think slow productivity is giving me permission to create space in my brain to explore options and to be creative, and to give it time to just think. And that thinking is good. Thinking is okay. Like, as long as you don't go into the productive procrastination where you're just spinning your wheels. So that book was really good. And then the other book that I've been going through, because I have a newborn baby daughter, is I pull it up, The Whole Brain Child. There we go. And what I liked about this book, and I'm probably only 3 chapters in, and I read these on audio as I'm going about my day, or as I'm driving, or sometimes as I'm working. But I'll go through them multiple times, and then if it's good enough, then I'll buy the book, or I'll buy the Kindle, and then I'll read through it. So I've realized that, from reading this book, that we don't hear about what is mental health, like the positive aspect of mental health. We hear about all the negative, like, oh, if you're talking bad to yourself, or oh, if you're depressed, or oh, if you're jumping around doing this or that. But what's a good example or a good analogy of like positive mental health? And I was like, gosh darn it, you're right. I don't know. I haven't heard like an analogy for describing like, what does it look like to have good mental health? So they talk about that if our mental health is like a river, and you're in the middle of the river, and things are just going by you, and everything's okay, you're good. But one side, if you start drifting too far, then one shore, I can't remember what the side, the one side of the river is chaos. And so if you go too far that side, your brain is going all over the place. You are in chaos, and it is not good. But then you can also drift over to the other bank. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. And that's like order, but too much order. Like, it's like stringent and not able to like bend or break at all. Not able to bend, but if it bends, it just breaks. And so then they talk through stories of like children that when they're going through a temper tantrum, they'll bounce back and forth between these two extremes. They'll be in this chaos mode, like, nothing's good, I hate this, ah. And then the other one is like, Sarah and I babysit for a kid in our church, and he's like, you're not doing it the way mom and dad do it. You've got to do it this way. No, you're doing it wrong. And then he, goes crazy, and then it's like chaos mode again, right? And it's like order, chaos, and he's not in the middle where he can be flexible, where he can go with the flow, at least in that moment when he's having this mental breakdown, essentially, or losing your mind, which is just waffling back and forth between those, or stuck in chaos, or stuck in like rigidity and order. And I love that analogy because it just opened my eyes to the times when I've had, the condition that comes with ADHD is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, right? Where I fear rejection, or where I feel my emotions super strongly because of something that somebody does, and I fear rejection and just this loss of a friend, or just whatever. Sometimes it's this rising fear and emotion. And so I see that the executive dysfunction in my brain is partially not being able to control, or not be able to stay in the middle of the river, and it's bouncing back and forth between those two shores, just like a child would, and that I don't have as much control as maybe other neurotypicals do. But I I know when I'm in that state, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm over on this side. I need to go over to this other side, and I never realize what the integration is, the goal. What it would look like to have those two halves of my brain, the logical and the emotional, connect and be together. And so I feel like that was just a really, really insightful. I need to journal about it some more and to pull that out, like why it impacted me so much. And I think it's because it's maybe a part of emotional maturity that I've struggled with, that that I want to be this, even keel person, and I find myself being pulled to those two shores sometimes really strongly, and I didn't know what the happy medium would look like. So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to also relate it back to ADHD a little bit more, because I'm an ADHD coach, and that's why I'm going live on these, is to share more about kind of my coaching and just the process. But really, it's also just to connect with you about who we are as people and how different brains exist, how my brain is, and how yours might be too. So I think that picture, like for some people with ADHD, they're going to be a little bit like a pinball, going back and forth more often than a neurotypical person. And having a clear picture of like what the goal is, instead of, well, just don't do that. It's like, well, no, like what should I do? And it's to be fully integrated. And then they go into ways of working with your child to help fully integrate the two sides, the left and the right hemispheres, or the chaos and the extreme order. How do you do that? How do you work with a child to help them to not compartmentalize one side and to completely like ignore a part of them? Whether they turn to logic and they just ignore emotions, and they just like, oh, I'm scared of that chaos side of the river, I'm going to stay over here on the logic. But that's not a great way to live, because like life throws us curves, life throws us curveballs. So being a fully integrated child and eventually a fully integrated adult is super important, so they can handle the curveballs that come their way, but also they aren't just in chaos hippie mode all the time, where they can follow rules and they can follow order. So yeah, I definitely want to write blog posts about this. I want to do some videos and kind of back to the slow productivity. I want to dive deep into some of these things. Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, I've gone through at least 6 or 7 times. I've been typing out the notes and just journaling everything that I can about it, so that way I can really have it almost come inside me, and I can viscerally feel that book, because there's aspects of it that I really want to apply to my life and to live out and to help other people live out. And so this Slow Productivity, his other book, is helping me oh, okay, that's what I'm wanting, is I'm wanting to be slowly productive at fully integrating the ideas into my being that he talks about in So Good They Can't Ignore You. So, yeah. And I think all of this is a little bit of a rejection of part of me that wants to just bounce from one thing to the next and get quick dopamine hits. But I see successful people with ADHD that they do go deep into something. They stick with something for a long time. They find ways of making it interesting despite the way their brain wanting to move on. And because of that, they have something of value to give, and they're able to craft this life where they have more margin, where they have flexibility with their time, where they can say no and turn down things, and they can say yes to better opportunities, because they've got this really valuable thing that they can offer the world. And I feel like I've been discovering what that thing is, and it's all my whole skill sets of all the things that I've done up till now have led to coaching, and I'm using all those things and to coach people. So yeah, I'm excited to flesh that out more, to share it with you more. But I guess this is a little bit of behind the scenes of like, where are these ideas coming from? And it's that I'm somebody that is a continual learner. I'm constantly reading and learning, but I used to read tons of books and then not remember the details of any of them. And yeah, with ADHD, I don't have as good of a short-term memory. It takes me more to integrate something in short-term to then save into long-term memory. So you could call it a crutch, or it's just, I just have to work a little bit harder to save that information to be able to then give it to other people. So it is what it is, and that's who I am. But I can still be successful and tap into the fullness of my brain and the full potential that I have. And that's why I coach, so I can teach other people that too. And now I'm bothered. My collar. There we go. That was okay. It's now even, okay, whatever. I fixed it for the last 2 minutes of the video. So thank you so much for joining. Those were my 2 books that I just felt like talking to you about tonight. The Slow Productivity and The Whole Brain Child. Even if you don't have a kid, I recommend it because that book is good. So have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, then I have to eat this dog food because I've committed to this 30-day challenge of going live or eating this. I don't want to. So I will see you tomorrow. And I will be posting this sticky note up on this wall and marking down here for the day, because those things help me to remember to do this. And yeah, hopefully you got some value out of this video. Thanks for joining, and I will see you around. I'm pointing to 2 cameras because I'm crazy and I'm trying to do everything all at once. Goodbye. And